To me, being non-binary is kind of like standing to the left of where people expect you to stand.
It's kind of just the weird blob of gender, not gender that I experience.
I would say to me, being non-binary just means that my gender now does not match with the box that was societally imposed on me at birth.
Trans means that you do not exactly fit into your assigned gender at birth. So like if you were born female, you don't exactly feel like you are female, or if you were born male, you don't feel like you're male. With non-binary specifically, it's you don't fit into strictly male or female. You're either somewhere in between or like outside of that completely.
I think that being trans is an absolutely magical, beautiful thing. And time again, I have to remind myself that this has nothing to do with anybody else. This has to do with what's going on inside of me, and no outside influences can affect me.
It means that I don't have to hold myself to any standards based on gender. I can just be how I am.
I just kind of identify as somebody who likes pink things and also likes Minecraft and likes fishing. I like to put on makeup when I'm stressed and buying survival knives on a whim.
Being a woman or being a man is pretty neutral. I don't wake up and think about it, but, I just wake up and make toast like anybody else.
It's kind of a bittersweet thing. Obviously, in a lot of ways, finding out I was non-binary helped kind of complete a lot of the parts of my life I didn't understand. But there is a lot of kind of loneliness and people not always understanding.
I was raised in a way that I was told I had to be a girl, but that never really fit with me until I learned about what it is to be non-binary, and then I realized that's what I am. Like, that's me.
For me, it was finding out that I was non-binary was around high school. I kind of had to experiment with that and make sure that that was me being true to myself, and I ended up finding out that, the alternative was me kind of lying to myself in the past.
Think of it this way. You think the video game you've been playing has only 2 characters for you to choose from, but now we're realizing actually there is no limit at all. The inner experience is much more complex and much more majestic and much more vivid than just man and woman.
Having to tell people was kind of interesting, especially with my mom. It happened in a mall. It was not expected. It kind of was a spur of the moment thing. But for me, it ended up being kind of freeing, just getting it out there and having people know
how I am and who I am on the inside, and other people's perception of me doesn't really impact my reality. So if it does come up, it's usually with other queer people who already understand. So we just elevate each other in validation. But if it does happen to come up with people who don't already get it, I tend to be met with confusion or a blank stare or pretending to understand.
For complete strangers, I understand how I look and sound, so it doesn't bother me too much. With family members, I know what they have said about trans people, so I don't exactly feel comfortable telling them.
Before I started socially going by my name and pronouns that I use now, it kind of felt like people were talking to a front desk person that would go back in my mind and relay the message to me. They weren't really talking to me.
It was a lot of kind of just feeling like I was playing a role. I had definitely done a lot of theater in high school, and so it kind of felt like theater, like I was being this character and playing this part, which didn't always mean it was a lot of stress, but it didn't necessarily feel like I was being me so much as this other person.
I think that there's a lot of expectations that comes with how I was socialized growing up. I was socialized in a very Christian household, as well as a Mexican-American household and an immigrant family. So there are a lot of gender roles that are expected from me that I am fine with fulfilling, but being non-binary meant that the whole time it was kind of like I was doing something for my parents, not so much doing something because it was who I was.
I feel like in relation to my culture, being trans or non-binary or just queer in general isn't really that accepted. I come from a Mexican background, and it's rooted in a bunch of machismoism, and men have to be tough and manly, and women have to take care of the kids and cook and clean. So it's very gendered.
As it relates to my Chamorro culture and heritage, we have a more matriarchal community, and even in its creation story, equality is pretty emphasized. And in a lot of other indigenous cultures like mine, there are categories and revered positions for different gendered people. But then Spain came around and forced Catholicism on everyone, so that makes it a little harder.
My father's lectures as a pastor, his sermons are constantly about the transgender question and homosexuality being a sin, and just kind of the stereotypical stuff that you wouldn't really expect to happen outside of a really poorly written script.
A lot of us have to have uncomfortable, difficult, and sometimes, frankly, insulting conversations about our own bodies, about our own choices, about our own freedoms. And yeah, it can be really hard, but just like a lot of hard things, once you come through the other side, it's a breath of fresh air. And stepping outside once you know that you don't have to hide anymore is like, there's no feeling like that.
There are some people that are older that maybe do have the capacity to understand but refuse to. And that's something I experienced with having both my parents be very Christian pastors.
After leaving that religious aspect behind, I try to find the aspects of my culture that haven't been infected by Catholicism, so I can still try to connect with my roots.
It was pretty liberating coming to college and being away from my family. I was surrounded by a very supportive community, and for the first time I felt like I had more freedom and I could really explore who I am actually rather than who my family wants me to be.
It felt like I was stepping away from the person I was used to being for other people, and I was finally being myself.
I had been out as non-binary, but it was still kind of in my mind like, am I non-binary enough? And then just one day I realized there's no such thing as non-binary enough. If you're non-binary, you're non-binary. And so once I came out to myself, coming out to other people was like easier, like, this is who I am, these are my pronouns, this is just how I am.
I'm not just my body. There is an entire universe inside me. I think trans people are just some of those people that they can't stand hiding. They have to show that magic to the world. Trans can stand for transgender, but it can also stand for transformation, transcend, transfiguration, transition. It's about evolving.
I'd like to tell other people that are younger, maybe people that are also in Christian households that aren't as accepting, if you feel like you are non-binary, but you're in an atmosphere where maybe it's a little bit dangerous to think about that sort of thing. Once you are out of that atmosphere, you have the rest of your life to figure out who you are. So don't think that it's always going to feel so restricting.
No one else can tell you who you are or how to be, and you don't have to fit into any pre-decided box. You can just listen to yourself, to nature, take your time, and you never have to be anything in particular.
You kind of go on this adventure, and the person you start out before you enter the world of the unknown is going to be a different person than you end up when you are the hero of your own story. It's kind of a hero's journey.
You being yourself is already a big game changer. The people in your life love you, even if there is a gap in understanding that, who knows, maybe isn't always going to be there. People that you don't expect to understand you right now can be very different in the future.
Like with my father, like there's always a lot of compassion with being considered his baby girl, like his daughter, because I didn't want to lose that from my father, and that's why he was the last person I told. So it's one of those things where you have to kind of go through those stages and then realize that at the other side, if somebody does truly love you, they are going to love you on the other side of it as well.
So your dad's cool?
Yeah, my dad's cool.